Hello, welcome to the Graeyzone. Not everything in life is black and white. This is our Grey Table podcast. It's a 5-man podcast introducing Silas Abdullah,
Hi, I'm Silas.
Robert Layton,
Hi, I'm Rob.
Abdel Raouf and Alami,
You could just go with Boof. I think that'll be better for
Nathan
everyone.
Booth,
Hi, I'm Nathan.
and myself, Christian Colorosi. Today, we're talking about something very interesting, and that is coincidence.
Is
Does
it
anyone
coincidence?
Is it?
I don't know. No, we've planned this out.
No, we planned this one.
We planned it, so
I
it's not
think
a
it might be a
coincidence.
coincidence that somebody might be listening to this after talking about coincidence.
Hey,
But-
it's a coincidence if anyone listens.
Yes, it
She.
So,
So why don't you, Christian, give us the, well, do you want me to give the definition? You said you were going to read the wiki part of it?
I'm going to read the wiki part off. Yes. A coincidence is a remarkable concurrence of events or circumstances that have no apparent causal connection with one another. The perception of remarkable coincidences may lead to supernatural, occult, or paranormal claims, or it may lead to belief in fatalism, which is a doctrine that events will happen in the exact manner of a predicted plan.
So is, are fate and coincidence connected, or are they two separate things?
That's up to you to decide, or our audience to decide, or us to talk about. I'm not quite sure.
I guess we could talk about it. Rob is coincidentally looking through Tinder. So
You know,
Rob, why don't you give us...
Tinder itself is
Is it-
actually entirely a
Yeah,
coincidence.
because you could coincidentally match with somebody.
Yes, because
'Cause it's double
matching with
blind.
some yes.
Yeah.
So technically he's doing research
Yeah, I'm
onto
doing
the
field
idea.
research.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. I was only doing it because of field research.
So, any thoughts from our new guest? Now, you guys will probably have heard of Nathan, depending on when this releases, because he did an episode with us.
Also, Boof was on an episode of the Grey Table.
He
That
wa-
we didn't call the Grey Table, but he was on.
Oh yeah. That was the first
horrible
one.
mishmash of garbage that we
that was
recorded.
Hey,
Hey,
great
that's the
garbage.
name of our channel.
It is gray garbage.
I thought you meant horrible mismatch of.
So why don't we get some thoughts from the new guys here?
Well, okay, I don't think we're done framing this for me to give my thoughts.
Well-
Like, what exactly is it that we're discussing?
Well, we're talking about coincidence in general. All right, give us.
It'd be a coincidence if you knew what we were talking about.
Coincidence actually details a lot of probability theory, and so anything that we're basically talking about anything from just statistics to like predestination and all that jazz. So
I think another important thing to talk about if you're going to talk about coincidence is the idea of causality. Does A cause B? Does B cause A? Or rather, is there a third thing that causes both of them?
Well, are you talking like in the butterfly effect of like a butterfly can beat his wings and 3,500 miles away, there's a tornado that happens?
Well, maybe.
I'm pretty sure the butterfly effect is like time travel, but
I thought that was the grandfather effect.
I think it's both.
no, the butterfly effect.
It's
The
also
movie-
a terrible movie
The
with
movie
Ashton Kutcher.
has that movie messed me up as a kid.
Dead.
I
There's
s-
a scene in there that I won't describe
Yeah,
for our
there's
viewers.
a
that
couple
is
scenes.
just blanked.
There are two scenes that really fucked me up as a kid. So
Oh, he can say it. I can't.
I'm
if
sorry.
I said it, someone would have given me.
I forgot.
You can say the fuck word, Rob.
No, I can't. I'll hear about it for the rest of my life.
Anyways, so for example, if I were to start talking about coincidence, I would want to say that I believe that coincidence, after a certain amount of times, is actually fate. I personally believe that because me being a faithful person, I have my backings in Christianity. I was raised Christian, and I still believe Christian morals,
Don't worry.
mythology for all you guys that don't believe in anything. But I mean, everyone can believe in whatever they want. So, but in regards to Christianity, if something happens a certain amount of times, I do personally believe that it's supernatural. So,
You believe it's supernatural.
yes.
So not divine, but supernatural.
I think it's divine in general, but supernatural is the blanket term for it, right? It's not something that can be affected on this physical plane. It's in the supernatural plane.
But
What's up, Nathan?
Usually, supernatural things can be affected on the physical plane. That's what makes them supernatural.
No, I mean,
not
are
divine.
directly affected. You know, like it's a supernatural plane. It's
What
all
do you
encompassing.
even mean by the supernatural plane?
I feel like there's a divine supernatural influence, and then there's also other forms of supernatural influence.
Well, I don't think you're being specific enough, because if your Christianity is a blanket term, you know, it doesn't all mean the same set of philosophies. So, especially when it comes to coincidence, you have to discuss, if you're going to discuss personal, mythological, or moral backings for your views on coincidence, you have to discuss the difference between, say, Calvinism and Catholicism, because Calvinists, who was the sect of Protestantism, come from John Calvin, believe in predestination.
Right.
Those were the ones that evolved later into Dutch Reformed and Methodists.
Right.
And predestination basically says that it's already determined before you're even born whether or not when you die you'll go to heaven or hell.
Right.
That you basically, in a sense, have no free will. And this is a very strange sect of Christianity because it spawned a bunch of wars, which was
It's true.
that. So if you're going to talk about coincidence and Christian morals, you have to look at the idea of, is anything a coincidence, which if you were Calvinist, nothing would be, because everything was already happening
determined.
for it goes further than saying everything happens for a reason, because everything is happening as it was written down
Meant
to
to
be.
be.
Yeah, there is no concept.
That's
of
a hot
coincidence.
topic even within Christianity too, and like you were saying amongst all the different sects. Something interesting that I've come across recently is that it's well. All right, let me say this. I'm a Protestant by nature.
By nature.
By nurture, I'm sorry. I'm Protestant by nurture, okay?
I was born into, therefore I am.
Are you sure you weren't
by nature.
predestined to be a Protestant?
Well, here's the thing. If it's supernaturally influenced, right? Divinely influenced, then I can't ever know if that was fate or not.
Well, the reason I pointed out wasn't to be a pedantic asshole, but if we say that
Nice
you're a
word,
Protestant by nature, that would almost preclude coincidence.
Right. No,
but you
I
were
understand.
born to a Protestant family by coincidence. You didn't choose who you were born to.
None of us did. So you're absolutely right.
All right, I just have to say,
Hmm.
to start to keep this there, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines coincidence as the occurrence of events that happen at the same time by accident but seem to have some connection.
Right. So, with that being said, there.
So we would consider your birth a coincidence, but your family would not. I don't mean just your birth, but your
parents.
But your parents. We would consider it a coincidence that you just happen to come from your parents,
Yes.
right?
Essentially. Well, I see. The thing is, I believe that there is a fate involved with it. However, as natural beings, not supernaturally inclined, we don't have any choice in that. So it seems like fate is out of our control. Rob's giving me a look. I just want to scheming something
I
over
would
here.
like to hear what you have to say.
I have nothing to say.
Well,
you
tell
know.
us what you believe about with coincidence.
I think coincidence is just
Coincidence?
yeah, it's just coincidence. Strange things happening because, on a random number generator, long enough, if you pull two random numbers, they're going to be the same. It's coincidence.
All right, so
But I don't believe in any variant of faith. There, that's the part they want out of me. I don't believe there's any
now
predetermined path. So coincidence is very common.
All right, let me ask you this: Have you ever experienced anything pretty weirdly coincidental in your life?
I'm sure, but nothing remarkably coincidental where I'm like, oh shit, wow, we.
Has anyone experienced anything coincidental to that degree?
Almost. I'm not gonna say it is, but it's almost.
All right, why
I
don't you
think
share?
this is the stupidest thing to be coincidental about. But a long time ago, I asked our mutual friend Spencer to drive me because I had a date. And he responded with, "No, Christian, I skipped school today, and I don't want to run into teachers." Now, the date location was going to be several towns over at a Chinese restaurant, which is, like, kind of hidden a little bit. I ended up getting another ride there, and there was a bunch of other shenanigans that ensued. But at the very end of the date, I encounter a teacher that went to my school and was a counselor, or I guess a counselor there.
Oh, man.
At the end of the date. And I thought to myself, if my friend would have driven me there to meet up with, I think the girl was named Victoria, it would have just been really, really strange. And in fact, it was a coincidence that she did show up because he had mentioned that to me.
Right.
That's probably the strangest coincidence I've ever encountered, and it was just very strange because it felt like it was out of an anime.
Well, I mean,
That's more so why it was weird.
Right.
Well, if you parse the incident out and why you ascribe any meaning to it at all, I mean, if you had gone to this restaurant and you had seen that counselor there without having spoken to Spencer and him giving you that reason, you wouldn't have thought anything of it.
I would have thought it was a bit odd
mean,
because it was kind of a little-known restaurant, but you're right. But it was the fact that it was the same day and it lined up so perfectly with what he said would have happened, which would have been very unlikely to happen, of just encountering a teacher at a Chinese restaurant and she was getting takeout.
I guess the way I got my job is kind of coincidental. Like,
And why is that?
mutual friend at work. So I made friends, there's air quotes there, because there's this loud, obnoxious kid who worked at where I worked, and he made me make friends with this other kid. I'm not going to name names because it's weird. Anyways, obnoxious kid left to go do a bunch of mission jobs somewhere. I don't know, he's super religious. Anyways, so I was then like, oh, this guy I guess is my new work friend. And he had a side job, and he had called his other friends to work this side job with him on a certain day, and none of them could. And he just so happened to drive by my house, and I was doing nothing, and he asked me if I would come work with him, because he lived like just down the block. He lived like 3 blocks away.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, oh, will you come work with me? And then I went and worked with him, and my new boss loved me, and now he doesn't work there. So it's like, just by coincidence that I was on the front porch, that I have my job now.
And do you like your job?
Yes, but I don't think that's fate.
Well, I mean, okay, so
I think it just so happened.
Can we take a timeout real quick?
Yeah.
That coffee's done.
oh yeah,
All right, guys, coffee's done, so we're
Coffee's
going to
done.
take
We'll
a
be
quick
right
break
back.
here.
Do you want me to read the definition again?
Oh, we're back.
No, I only want... Oh, are we?
Oh, we're back.
Hello.
We're back, guys. We got the coffee.
We got that hot coffee and we're back.
Nathan wasn't ready for us to come back, but I have the laptop, so I say when we're back. We're back.
Oh, are we actually back right now?
Oh, yeah, we're
back,
actually back.
Okay,
We've
cool.
been back for about 22 seconds.
That's great.
it's about 25 seconds actually.
I wasn't sure.
Well, now, when I started, I was right, too.
Oh, okay.
All right, Nathan, you said you wanted to say something.
Wait, are we back?
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm just going to repeat that definition from the Merriam-Webster dictionary real quick because...
By coincidence.
But yeah, by coincidence, I happen to have it pulled up.
That was predestined.
Oh gosh.
Actually, it was.
All right, John
Go by
Calvin.
us. Does that make us God?
Yes.
Let him read the description.
I'm just trying to process that. All right, coincidence, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, is the occurrence of events that happen at the same time by accident, but seem to have some connection.
So,
I got
what? Boof. You,
Okay, so we heard... Well, we just heard 2 anecdotes, right? And I
Right.
was going to say, for both of these anecdotes, the reason I asked to have the definition read again was because I wanted to hear it's an accident that seem like they have some type of connection, right?
Right.
Now, when you look at Christians, for example, is it super unbelievable that someone at Etzel Ford, which is a big student body, a big teacher body, a large staff, one of them happened to be at the same restaurant as you at the same time. I don't think that's that much of a stretch.
Where was how far away was it from?
It was at Rose Garden in Dearborn Heights.
Okay, so it was in Dearborn Heights.
Yes.
Yeah,
But I could very easily live in Dearborn Heights.
they could, but it was just very. The circumstances surrounding it, due to the other things that were happening at said date, were very odd, and so that builds the coincidence level.
Well, your perception, I think.
But it is my perception.
Yeah,
yes.
and I think
Right.
if you were to break it down in a more quote unquote objective way, like if you were to tell me if you told me what I just told me, I'd be like, well, you could probably explain it in different ways then.
Well,
I
if you
talked
went
to
backwards,
Spencer-
if you went backwards through the story, right, it wouldn't seem as interesting.
You see,
Right.
Anyways, Nathan.
Well,
Nathan-
I was just going to say, it doesn't. I just want to clarify that I think the coincidence comes in that it's not that Christian ran into the teacher at the Chinese restaurant in and of itself. It's that they ran into a teacher at the Chinese restaurant and not the school.
No, it's that Spencer said,
Spencer said it.
I won't drive you because what if I run into a teacher?
But he assumed-
how obscure of a statement is it to say, what if I run into a teacher at this restaurant? And then
because
coincidentally
I
the
have
teacher
never
was there.
actually heard somebody.
I don't think it's that odd. And I don't think it's crazy. It's just by chance he just so happened to give that excuse for not driving.
Yes.
And lo and behold, he would have been correct
Well,
if
did
he
he
showed
say
up.
at the restaurant or just I don't want to run into a teacher? Period.
I don't want to run into a teacher while I'm out.
Right.
Okay,
But
okay, well,
implying,
that's-
implying the only place he would have been is he would have sat at the back of the restaurant while I had my date.
That's kind of weird.
Actually, actually, Joanna and Eric did that because Eric ended up driving me.
Oh,
How
Yeah.
cute.
Anyways,
anywho.
Supporting parents. So, I guess really the question here is whether coincidence is more of an ironic statement in life or a thing that happens in life, an ironic happening, or if it's more of a fate.
those words
thing.
aren't interchangeable.
Well, listen, I'm just highlighting the fact that the definition of coincidence happens to exist within a gray area.
Yeah, I'm just saying
Of
those
definition.
two words aren't interchangeable.
It's just coincidence is just something that seems to the individual as improbable.
Well, here's the thing. So I've had multiple experiences when, I've been dealing with something personally, and multiple times I would be in a position where I'd hear from somewhere like, oh, hey, like, for example, I remember a long time ago, me and my brother were fighting, and I forgot how the course of events were. It was a long time ago, but I ended up running into someone, and he was talking about how he just lost his brother to something, whether it's an illness or an accident, I don't remember. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm sorry to hear about that, whatever. And then later on that day, I heard from someone else about some bad blood between brothers. And it kind of like, spoke to me like, hey, maybe you should look into your relationship with your brother. But then on the third day, someone came up to me and was literally like, hey, do you have a brother that you have problems with? I'm like, how did you know? It's like, I just felt like I wanted to talk with you about that. And then that established with me like, hey, I have to watch my shit, essentially, with my brother.
You don't consider that coincidence, though.
I consider that more or less of a fate or a sign, yes.
My only thing would be that if you were not a man of faith, none of that probably would have meant very much at all.
So does that mean
The first one would have been like, wait, I forgot. The first one, the guy came up.
person lost their
yeah.
brother?
You would have been way more focused on the fact that the person lost their brother than the fact that you also currently had bad blood with your brother. It would have just been like a more family thing, like,
Right, well,
oh, I gotta keep my family.
the
close
way that I
because,
see it
it's
is
just-
that if something happens that pertains to my life, right? If it's brought up once, it's just a coincidence or it's just a happening, right? If it's brought up a second time, then it's ironic, right? No?
It's
All right.
more
Well,
all right.
again, I
if
think-
it happens the first time, let me just redefine it. If it happens the first time, it's just a happening. If it happens the second time, then it's a coincidence. But if it happens the third time, then it's something that I need to look into.
I think the word you're looking for is a sign.
Yeah, no, I said that. Yeah, I think it is a sign. It is.
Now, I'm going to put this into something that some of our audience might be able to understand, and some of them will have no idea what I'm talking about. But for me, I play a lot of D&D, so there's a lot of dice rolls. That's all probability. What I see as coincidence, personally, is much more when I feel strongly towards something, and then it happens or doesn't happen in a particular way, and really it's just an emotional connection to something happening, and it works. For example, I once had a character who was told that he could not flip a table, and then I tried to flip the table and rolled a natural 20, allowing me to flip the table. Now that seemed like a coincidence, but it's just a 1 in 20 chance. But because I had some type of emotional connection with it, it seemed much more of a coincidence or something special out of the ordinary to me.
Yes, I think so much of whether you want something like that bridge from coincidence to fate is how much personal significance you want to assign to what happened to you, right? I think that's something that happens more in our own heads, because I do believe that if you were to objectively break down each of the anecdotes and go bit by bit, you could probably explain it in a much more pedestrian fashion.
Mm-hmm.
But we want it to mean more because it's cooler if it means more.
Well, I feel like there's like we want it to mean more, especially if we think that we have that personal relationship with a faith.
You see,
so
with that, and I think that we can be on a similar level but very different at the same time with this. When I'm thinking objectively, I can very much say, hey, if this random chance happens that makes me feel special, that is just something triggering something in my brain, giving me a little bit of dopamine, saying, "Oh, I'm special," and because that's what everybody wants usually.
Give yourself some credit, man. Come on, you feel special because you are special, Christian.
Well, thank you.
Sure is.
And I have needs as well.
Yeah.
So, but what I was going to say is, but from a subjective level, your spirituality is very similar to how I go about my life, embracing things like that, even though logically I know it doesn't really mean anything, because it makes me feel better about myself. And I'm not demeaning your spirituality.
No,
I'm
I know.
saying, but it's a similar concept because you have a belief in your spirituality, and I embrace these coincidences and things like that to make myself feel better. So then it helps with my energy levels and other things throughout the day. But I can logically break down and have a moment where I'm really thinking about it and realize it's just all a bunch of random probability.
That's. I mean, I'm even less so than what you said, because for something for me to be coincidence, it has to be like mind-bogglingly strange. Because like what you said, where it's like, oh, I want this, it happens. That's wow, what a coincidence, and it makes you feel good. I don't get that as much because, like, okay, so I play a lot of Magic the Gathering. And if you're like, I need to top deck X, and if I top deck X, I win the game. When I top deck it, I'm like, hell yeah, gotcha. Like, I fucking won, I'm on top of the world. But I know that my deck is literally built for me to eventually get that card. So although it feels great, it's not coincidence. It's 100% probability that I stacked in my favor.
You see, I feel like there's a difference between, I will say, D&D and Magic in that with Magic, you are repeating the same motions every time. You are going to, if you have the same deck, you're going to the table, and although you may be playing against different decks, you have a limited tool set. Well, where in D&D, it feels more coincidental because the story is a constant story which is moving forward, and so it feels like you're in a different environment every time. So I think that plays more into coincidence than sitting down at a table in a tournament hall and playing, because that has a more logical feel to it, and you're actually you are fully in control of the cards you put into your deck.
Yeah.
While although you are controlled the things that you pick for your character, the DM has more. You do not have a level playing field with a game master, as opposed to you do kind of have a level playing field with another person's deck. I mean, it might overpower yours, but they made it within the same confines and rules as you made yours.
Yeah.
Very different than dealing with somebody who has all the power.
I think we're getting too much into the nitty-gritty of
I mean,
D&D and Magic.
Well,
Mine
there's
wasn't
a-
nitty gritty. Mine was just literally
No, I know. but, like-
probability.
and this
Period.
this has to do with the probability of it.
No, I know, but if we step back and look at the broader themes of what Rob just said about it being built, your deck is built to produce a certain outcome
Yeah.
Yes.
that may or may not happen,
Yes.
but we ascribe more meaning to it because you won.
No, I'm saying,
but
I'm saying he has more meaning to his
yes.
because I look at it way more as just probability landing in my favor. I don't see me winning with that card as coincidence. I see it as I did the right thing when I put this together.
Right, but this sort of mechanical, like, if you want to do, like, you said your deck was 100% built to produce that outcome.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at a lot of these stories that we've been telling, if you look at the framing and the scenario, a lot of the happenings were sort of 100% built to produce a certain outcome.
Saying. When I told my story, I said I have no events in my life that I find particularly coincidental, and then I said it's kind of coincidental that X, Y, and Z happened and whatever, because I break it down way more problematic.
Right, I'm not
probability.
arguing with you, but I'm saying the broader themes of our discussion. I know Nathan's been waiting to talk for a while.
No, it's just it's an interesting concept because so far we've discussed coincidence as a heavy subject, like matters of morality or religion or probability, which to some people is just as
Heavy.
deep-seated and heavy as religion. But I go throughout my day saying things like, "Oh, that was weird," or "Oh, that's funny," and I'll play little games with myself, and I'll say, "Well, if this person gets here, or I run into this person, then which low probability of happening, or like I wasn't expecting to see someone, then I'll be able to do this," and then they show up, and I'll go, "Huh, that's a coincidence." But I think the point here, and what's a common theme throughout everybody's stories, heavy or not, is a lot of times we go looking for coincidence. We go looking for meaning in interactions, the general interactions. I mean, with Christian and Rob's stories, they were probability heavy, right? But like Rob said, his deck had a meaning. It's the purpose of the deck at all is to win the game. I mean, that's the purpose of the game.
Yeah.
When you boil it down to the very basic
Minutia.
elements of any game, it's to win.
And the reason I flipped the table is because I thought I could potentially get that magic natural 20.
And this struck me with Silas's anecdote, is that you can even take religion out of it, and you can have that same interaction. But if the whole reason that Silas brought that coincidence up is because he felt there was meaning in it.
Right.
Someone mentioning that, oh, my brother just died,
Wouldn't be any meaning.
made you think, oh, I should be better with I should make up with my brother, or I shouldn't be fighting with him. But when really, are you looking for a coincidence? Was that deeper meaning, or did you know that you should make up with your brother anyway, and you were looking for a reason that was going to make you do it?
I guess you could say that. Being spiritually inclined, I always have the want to do better with myself, right? To aspire to greater morality, personally. And so, yeah, if I am in bad blood with my brother, or if I am in if I'm doing something that is considered sinful by faith, then yeah, I have a draw away from that. So looking for that, I completely understand where you're coming from. It's just, for me, when it happens 3 times, then it's becoming really uncanny how often it's brought up to me. Now, it is logistical. It is very logistical when you break it down. And when you break it down into logistics, it's understood that there's no real ascribed personal part towards it. Like, I think, what was it, Christian was saying? I forgot who said it. I just drew a blank on who said it. It's not, when you break it down, or maybe it was Booth that said it, when you break it down into the elements themselves, then what it is, it's just a random series of events.
That we ascribe meaning to.
Exactly. However, being spiritual, I was able to recognize the similarities between that and ascribe it to my own personal self. But the thing is that made me a better human being that day.
Right, and that's what I was going to bring up right now, is that, all right, well, even if we are to say, and this is what I am saying, is that these are random events that we ascribe meaning to, and the coincidence is not as shocking as it might seem once you actually break down the minutia of what's going on. But if you do want to ascribe some sort of fate to it, or you said that you get some sort of dopamine rush when some of these things happen, right?
Yeah.
So
It makes
I'll give you dopamine. Oh.
so my question then is it wrong to ascribe more meaning to it?
No.
If we're feeling, you say it made you a better human being, you said it makes you feel better, right?
Yeah.
So is it wrong?
I don't think it's wrong due to the fact that if it's wrong to ascribe meaning, because meaning is something that you yourself make. If it's wrong to ascribe meaning to something, then it's always wrong to ascribe
No,
meaning
well,
to
I mean in
something.
the sense of, well, maybe not wrong, but more like, is it intellectually unsound?
Oh, I can agree with that. I think you meant wrong on some type of moral.
No. I
compass,
mean
and
more
I'm
like,
Is it logistically wrong for us
Yeah.
to think like that? Like it's...
is it like legit? When I say intellectually unsound, I mean like, even if we were to say it's fate, is that a problem to people
Well, I
if
think
we
at a
frame
certain
it that
point,
way?
even in,
Or should it be a problem if we
even
frame
in-
it that way?
even in my experience, I feel like it's a problem because I've witnessed people who have like, oh, it rained yesterday, which means that God's coming back tomorrow. or
It
something.
rained, so I don't have to water my plants. God is great. My name is Raouf.
Even though we already watered them.
Well, because it didn't rain.
We'll get the meteorologist to tell us the wrong answer. Hey.
I just don't think it's wrong to ever really assign meaning to something because that's what humans do. And that's
Well, Silas was going somewhere just now
As-
that might actually challenge that.
as-
Because you just mentioned you were going close to like people who ascribe a lot of meaning to things
can
and
take it
therefore
too
try to
far.
connect it to
As
like
a-
an apocalypse.
Exactly.
type
As a
thing.
person who's been in experience with faith and spirituality, I can tell you right now, it is very dangerous to go out and look for these coincidences, right? So, personally, I don't look for them. But if they happen to me, then I note them, right? So, there are very many examples of people going out looking for a coincidence, finding something that they don't like, or that they think would ascribe themselves to what they personally believe, and then they run with it, and it's wrong in the end. So,
Well, no, but what I mean is like, not it's wrong that you do it because it leads you to a false conclusion or something like that, but meaning, I don't ever believe that assigning meaning to something, a singular person assigning meaning to something is ever morally wrong due to the fact that that becomes a self-cyclical problem in which if you say it's morally wrong to do that and then somebody else says, no, meaning is meaningless, then that itself counters that, and it kind of creates this like weird cyclical like, okay, you're going to win this argument by pulling the rug out from under your opponent by saying everything's meaningless. But if you're saying everything's meaningless, then why does it matter that this person is ascribing meaning to something?
I think it only becomes an issue if you affect other people with it.
And that's
If
why I said personal.
Yeah, if I want to make this water bottle that Boof handed me mean that Boof loves me, and I want to take it home and think weird things and build a shrine around it, as long as I don't stalk, kill, or do other nefarious things to Boof,
Nefarious things.
yeah, then it doesn't matter. But if I take this water bottle that Boof handed me and assign too many meanings and connect too many stones and go too far with it, then it becomes a problem because I'm affecting somebody else because of I attributed too much meaning to something.
I guess you could attribute too much meaning.
Right.
I just
like I said, if you keep it to yourself and you don't hurt anybody,
and that's how I feel.
or affect anybody else, I don't think it can become a problem. But the second it's like, this happened, so this happened, so this happened, so you have to die. Or, it doesn't even have to be that extreme. So you aren't allowed to wear ox blood colored shirts anymore. If I see you wearing one, I'm going to call the police. And it can get out of hand pretty quick. Or you could, there's like careers built on creating coincidence, right? That's what like psychics are and fortune tellers,
Cold
right?
reading. Yeah.
They create coincidence in your life, and then they make you chase after something, and they get money out of it. And as long as you're hurting yourself, I guess I don't give a. But once you start hurting me with it,
You're creating meaning for other people in that case, which isn't creating meaning for oneself.
yes.
This idea of looking for coincidences, which was Silas was mentioning, like if you're looking for a coincidence,
That's
you are
ironic.
you are seriously stretching. Like we've been going back.
It's not coincidence anymore.
Yeah, if we're going back to the idea that coincidences can be a bunch of minutia that occurs in an event that lead up to that event, then looking for a coincidence is just you might be creating this minutia and therefore getting the conclusion that you want.
I think that's what, and I didn't mean it as a jab towards Silas, but that's what I meant when I said, if you weren't a man of faith, then XYZ.
Oh, no, nothing you guys are saying are jabs towards me. I want you to know that.
Where I believe that people who are more spiritual tend to hunt out coincidences in things that are way more, like, run in the mill,
So I have just a statement to go along with this. As I've researched coincidence, something very
As he
interesting.
Googled it just now.
No.
Nathan, we do need to hear you.
I am referencing something,
Eventually.
but something popped up called the birthday problem.
I know this problem.
And in probability theory, the birthday problem or birthday paradox concerns that the probability that in a set of n randomly chosen people, some pair of them will have the same birthday. So the pigeonhole probability reaches 100% when the number of people reaches 367, since there are only 366 possible birthdays, including February 29th. However, a 99.9 probability is reached with just 70 people, and 50% reached with with 23 people. This is these conclusions are based on the assumptions that each day of the year, excluding February 29th, is equally probable for a birthday. And I find that really interesting, just due to the fact that you wouldn't think that with just 23 people, it would be likely. And that is counting that if all birthdays were equally averaged.
Yeah, if you want to hear something that's mildly unlikely, my mom, my dad, and my cousin all share the exact same birthday. It's October 21st. But
That's my birthday.
No, yours is 20 days earlier.
Yeah, I know it is.
But if you think about how broad those groups are, it's not even crazy. Because my mom comes from a completely different family. My dad comes from a completely different family. Oh, also their wedding anniversary is on that day, but they planned that one.
Actually,
Master your own fate.
but I'm pretty sure that my parents' wedding anniversary is October 20th. So
it's not quite
it's
coincidental.
not coincidental, but
Straws. You're grasping.
I am grasping on straws. Now,
You're looking for coincidence, Christian. It's going to cause damage to people.
Now, the coincidence of us all having the same, or at least one of us having the same birthday, is 2.7% with 5 people.
Oh, really?
Oh, we don't.
We don't.
We don't.
Well,
Do any of us share a birth month? I actually don't think so.
October, February.
Actually,
What?
Oh, I'm sorry.
we do.
May.
April.
Oh, yes.
We do.
April.
Oh, you do. Right?
September.
No, May.
March.
September.
September.
Okay,
Oh,
Well, that's
September.
like a 1 in 12 chance
chance.
times 1 in 12.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 1 in 24
It's not
chance.
crazy.
No, that is not the same thing.
No,
What a
1 in 6, right?
coincidence!
It's 1 over 144.
Well, when I
Oh, yeah,
I
that's right.
wonder.
I'm so dumb.
You mentioned that your
I got a count.
Rob mentions his parents have the same birthday, right?
And my uncle.
And your uncle.
I think he's my second cousin. He's my dad's cousin.
Well, if we look at your mom and your dad,
yeah.
I wonder, like,
Rest in
you were born to your mom and your dad, right?
Yeah.
If
we
we
hope.
look at why they became, I wonder, like, if
That
the fact that they had a common birthday helped facilitate the relationship in some way, or just like they thought it was cute at first and that helped grease the wheel, so to speak.
And
it might
I
Grease
know
the
the
wheels.
story behind my mom and dad starting dating, and I won't mention it because it's kind of weird.
But I'm just saying.
NC-17
They probably found it cute. No, it's not very NC-17. It's just not very
safe for work.
No, I'll tell you after.
Okay.
It's not something the public needs to know.
Okay.
Well, the reason I bring this up is because that it sounds like a coincidence now.
Yeah.
But at the time, it might have been
Yeah.
like the fact that they have the same birthday might have been part of the.
Well, I also have something I'm going to say.
That's good.
All right, Nathan thinks he has something to say, so we're back, and the spotlight is on him.
No, just kidding. Okay.
They couldn't see that.
For those of you who are listening, I feigned stage fright, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I realized I hadn't given my opinion on coincidence tonight, but so
Don't give away what time of day we record this at.
this morning.
Real vague.
Yesterday.
I'm sorry, Chris, this guy's over here saying names of dates he was on, and
I was trying to be as vague as possible.
I know, and I'm not allowed to say the time of day it is while we're recording. Not important. This is a digression. So when it comes to coincidence, my personal feeling is, yeah, I think it's very possible and frequent that people create unnecessary or useless meaning in circumstances and situations.
Thanks, Nate. I'm just
Like
kidding.
horoscopes, like
Horoscopes.
that are printed in the paper.
Ah.
I had a teacher once in college. It was an intro to psychology class, and he made everyone write. He says, "I can analyze your handwriting. Over the weekend, I want you to write out this." And he sent us a little document. We had to rewrite it. And when he came back in, he only had written this out twice. He said, "I only could do 2 people. It was a short weekend," and gave each of them a copy of this. And it was like, this person, you're this, your handwriting tells this about you. And then he really screwed everyone up because he was like, "Just kidding, those are exactly the same, and you both believed it." And that's just what a horoscope is.
Oh, heavy got him.
So I think that, like, on some kind of hippy-dippy spirituality, fate kind of way, there is meaning to situations. I think that we do go looking for meaning, though. And I think that's where the majority of our coincidences, quote-unquote, come from.
So, but would you agree with the idea that that's not necessarily a harmful thing?
No, I don't think it's a harmful thing at all. I think that in some kind of human nature-y way, we need to find meaning in things, and that's where the whole idea of coincidence and deja vu came from.
Like, you bring up something that I wanted to comment on, and it's going to be a very deep question. We don't have to expound upon
It's going to be deep.
If we're just looking for meaning, right? Who's to say that we are wrong in looking for meaning? Because everything in life has some sort of personal implication towards our own personal selves, right? Mm-hmm. We look for that due to the fact that we are human beings who are self-realizing.
None of us said it's wrong to look for meaning.
In fact, I do think it's helpful to sort of create your own narrative.
Right.
That's what you're saying, your own story
Right.
in life.
Real-
It helps you contextualize things. It makes it easier to sort of look back and learn things, right?
Right.
If you sort of create some sort of cohesive through
Narrative.
line, right?
Right. What's
So-
the plot to your life?
Right. If you're ascribing meaning to quote unquote coincidental or random things, I don't think I think it helps in a way.
So Nathan, by the way, you're a Pisces, right?
Real quick.
Let's not talk about this.
This period is full of difficulties, and you will tend to question yourself, especially today. You will start thinking about your personality.
Whoa! They got
your
it.
ego, Nathan's ego, risk bruising, and you will have the greatest difficulties turning your intention into real action. Your sensitivity prevents you from materializing your ideas. You can't
materialize things right now, Nathan.
Nathan, I
because
understand
you're
that-
sensitive about
You
ideas.
guys really hurt my feelings tonight.
So, real quick, because it didn't go where I thought it was with Silas, so I'm going to say it, but then I'm going to immediately shelf it. Deja vu. And now it's shelved.
Whoa!
And now it's shelved. And we will come back to that at a later date, I promise. But I thought that's where we were going. That's why I gave you the look.
Right.
Shelf that.
Shelf the
Continue
deja vu.
coincidence.
Um,
You want to read any more horoscopes?
no, I
No,
think we're
not
good
really.
on
I
that.
wanted to do that for.
I don't want any more.
I really want
Yeah.
this to be a deja vu moment, just to bring it up. No, but we don't have to bring
Here's
it up.
the
We'll bring it
shelf.
up.
There it is.
Oh.
Shelved.
For our viewers, Rob just put this conversation on the shelf.
I did. No!
No, Christian's gonna try to grab it. Oh wait, Christian's bringing it to the garbage disposal, and he just turned it on. So now
That idea
now
is
it's in
gone.
pieces,
You just have to
and
get out of the drain.
we'd have to get it out of the drain.
But maybe
I'm
we'll-
gonna have to get out of the
Maybe-
drain.
Maybe we'll get it out of the drain someday.
Yeah.
Not to imply that this is at my house.
Let us know if you guys
This,
want us to
this
talk
isn't
about
like
deja
some
vu.
ethereal void somewhere.
We don't record at a particular time of day. We don't record in a particular location. But
knows it?
Christians' dates do have names.
In Chinese restaurants.
And Chinese restaurants. That's it. No dates, no locations, no times.
We're-
just Christians' dates, names, and
Yeah.
Chinese food.
We, except for Christian, we all exist anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah, we're ethereal.
We're kind of like how do you say the guy's name?
Schrodinger's
cat.
Schrodinger's cat. We're Schrodinger's
Oh, you're so
group
classy.
of.
You're so
Oh,
slick intelligent.
Hey guys,
Oh,
new
God.
name for the podcast, Schrodinger's podcast. Hey,
Oh wow, yeah. Let's see.
I guarantee
it's
you
about our
that's been
upload
taken.
consistency.
are we going to upload or not upload?
You'll never
Is
know.
the podcast done? If the podcast is on a data file, is it done or unfinished?
Okay, well, we're gonna shelf that one too because I need to get back on track.
Does anyone have anything else to say about
Yeah,
coincidence?
or are we wrapping this up? Everyone,
Uh,
final thoughts. Starting with Nathan just went, so we'll go Boof. Final
uh,
thought.
so my final thought is that I personally don't believe in fate in the sense of, like I've been saying, you can break down. I think you can break down every instance of something that you can ascribe greater meaning to by sort of breaking it down into the minutia of things, and then you'll realize, oh, there's a reason this happened that is beyond that.
Is
You don't
beyond
have
our
to
control.
go to supernatural reasons to come to, to figure out why it happened. That said, not only do I not think it's a bad thing to ascribe greater meaning to things, but I also think it helps in a way, like I just said about this idea of creating your own narrative in life.
Right.
Makes it easier for you to look back on things. And to put it simply, I think it makes life a little more fun,
It
so to
does.
speak.
It really does.
All right, Sala. Christian, actually.
Not me.
What? Christian, final thoughts.
No, give me a moment.
All right, Silas' final thoughts then, I guess. Or,
Silas, final thoughts. Let's hear it.
so, while I understand the idea that coincidence is merely just that, a coincidence, I do still believe in the idea that some of these happenings have personal meaning to my life, especially when they happen more often than not. And again, the one instance I gave, that's just one of many in similar tastes. But whether I was looking for that or not, that's a personal question I had to ask myself, and I've asked myself that many times, and I've been trying to, not search for that myself. However, when things happen, I do listen to them, and I notice them as signs from a higher being that I personally believe in.
Nathan, let's get them final thoughts.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely I would even argue healthy to assign meaning to things. I like Raouf's point about Boof's point about creating your own personal narrative. I mean, it's the meaning of life. It's the entire that Monty Python film. But at the end of the day, it's mostly harmless. Even when you get into ridiculous stuff like horoscopes and that other thing we brought up. I don't remember what it was. And I think that that I do think fate has a role to play. What are we doing here?
Christian,
What are we doing?
Oh,
In this
What are we
ethereal
doing
plane
here?
that we're recording
well, first
in.
off, I have bad news for everybody.
What's
The coffee was poisoned and we're all dead.
Oh,
Now the second thing is,
Is that a meaning of life? reference?
yes, that was a meaning of life
Nice.
reference. On the meaning of mostly harmless, I actually think that coincidence or ourselves, humans, believing in correlation makes life worth living in a way, because most entertainment is based off of coincidence. Almost all entertainment is based off of coincidence. If you watch any type of narrative, it's all coincidence.
Why is
Or it
this
might be-
happening to this one farm boy?
It might be fate in the context, but from an outsider's perspective, it is coincidence that it's just happening. And I say that when he said mostly harmless, because that is, I would say, one of the best examples of coincidence in narration is from the series The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, in which Earth is classified as mostly harmless. The entire book series is based off of just random coincidence of things happening. And it's very entertaining.
It is very
And-
entertaining. That's an entertaining story.
That's all I have to say.
nice. Rob, final thoughts.
Yeah, I saved mine for last because they're the most boring. I know they say worst for last, I think is the saying.
Yeah, coincidentally, that's
Yeah,
exactly what they say.
So mine's just fairly in line with Booth's. That's why I didn't want to go early. It's because I don't believe in a lot of coincidence. I look more for probability and say, well, eventually that was going to happen. That's about it. That's my final thought. I mean, I don't want to just repeat everyone else's.
Such wise words from Robert Layton here on the theory of life and meaning.
Let me look up the mathematical equation I live my life by. The hypergeometric probability calculator or some shit.
What the? What?
That's too many syllables.
Hypergeometric probability.
Omega super duper awesome calculator of life and death.
Hypergeometric distribution probability calculator.
And
It just takes the number of occurrences that are possible, the amount of times that occurrence hasn't happened, and what the likelihood that that occurrence may just so happen happens. Anyways,
Just probability.
it's just probability. It's an advanced probability calculator.
so on that note, I think that we've kind of reached somewhat of a conclusion, actually, that some of us have similar beliefs on it. To a certain degree, Rob, he's got more of a radical idea of it. However, everyone kind of thinks that, there's some sort of special meaning towards it.
I always
Except
have the
for-
radical idea, Nathan. It's okay.
It's like, that wasn't that radical.
Ah,
everyone was
radically in this scenario.
Coincidentally, I think everyone kind of came to a consensus. It was kind
That's
of
true.
an agreement.
I think someone else should do the closing, unless you got something final thoughts.
On final thoughts, I was just going to say that it actually is part of the closing, but it is different. If you do like us talking about coincidence, we can do another episode on it, and we can do things which are similar. So please let us know.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Silas, why don't you close this out?
Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been our second installment of the Great Table Discussion. My name is Silas.
I'm Nathan.
I'm Christian.
Raouf or Boof or whatever the fuck they call me.
Rob.
And this has been another production episode of The Graeyzone. Thank you for tuning in. Like and
Donate to
subscribe.
our Indiegogo.
Donate to our stuff. I guess Boof wants to plug our film as he is
It's in
our
the
acting director.
description.
Look in the description below for our video. Like and subscribe. Please give us a comment if you have anything you want to say. Please, we want to hear it, and we don't care if you bash us outright.